The year was 2147, and humanity had spent centuries gazing at the stars, wondering if they were alone in the universe. The question had lingered for generations, hopeful, yet unanswered. That changed on a crisp autumn morning when an alien vessel descended from the heavens, shattering the silence of Earth's skies. It wasn't a small scout ship or a fleeting glimpse of something unexplained. This was massive. A sleek, metallic behemoth that shimmered like liquid silver under the sun. Its arrival sent shockwaves through every corner of the globe. The craft hovered above the United Nations headquarters in New York City, casting a shadow over the bustling streets below. People froze mid-step, their eyes wide with awe and fear. Phones buzzed as billions tuned into live broadcasts, watching the spectacle unfold. Governments scrambled to respond, unsure whether this was a threat or an opportunity. Military forces stood on high alert, but no weapons emerged from the ship. Instead, after hours of tense anticipation, a single figure stepped out. The being was unlike anything anyone had ever seen. Towering nearly 8 feet tall, it moved with grace despite its imposing size. Its body seemed to blend technology and biology seamlessly. Metallic plating covered parts of its form, glowing faintly with intricate patterns that shifted like constellations. Beneath the armor, translucent skin revealed glimpses of pulsating veins filled with light rather than blood. Its face was angular, with large, almond-shaped eyes that glowed softly, scanning the crowd below. A voice boomed from unseen speakers, deep and resonant, speaking perfect English through some kind of universal translator. "Human, you must inspect me." The words echoed across the plaza, leaving everyone stunned. Inspect. What did that even mean? Was this a test? A demand? No one knew how to react. The gathered diplomats whispered frantically among themselves, trying to decipher the alien's intentions. Cameras zoomed in on the creature, capturing every detail for analysis. Reporters shouted questions, but the being remained silent, waiting patiently. After several minutes of deliberation, Dr. Elena Vasquez was chosen to step forward. She was a xenobiologist known not only for her brilliance, but also for her calm demeanor under pressure. Her colleagues often joked that she could talk her way out of any crisis, and now humanity needed exactly that. Dressed in a simple lab coat, Elena approached the towering figure with steady steps, her heart pounding in her chest. Despite her nerves, she kept her expression neutral, refusing to show fear. As she drew closer, the alien tilted its head slightly, studying her with those luminous eyes. Up close, it was even more breathtaking and intimidating. The air around it hummed faintly, as though charged with energy. Elena swallowed hard but forced herself to speak. "I'm Dr. Elena Vasquez," she said, her voice clear and firm despite the weight of the moment. "What do you mean by inspect?" The alien regarded her silently for a moment before responding. "I am Commander Ziril of the Valon Collective. My request is literal. You will examine my form and determine what I cannot see myself." Elena blinked, caught off guard by the specificity of the command. Why would such an advanced species need help from humans? Still, she nodded slowly, deciding it was best to comply. "For now." "All right," she replied. "But I'll need tools, equipment to analyze, whatever it is you want me to look at." Commander Ziril gestured toward the ship behind them. "You will have access to everything required." With that, the alien turned and began walking back toward the gleaming vessel, motioning for Elena to follow. Every step felt surreal. Cameras flashed, and murmurs rippled through the crowd as Elena walked alongside the alien commander. She glanced back briefly, seeing the anxious faces of her fellow humans. Some looked hopeful, others terrified. Whatever happened next, she realized, would shape the future of humanity forever. When they reached the entrance of the ship, a section of the hull dissolved into nothingness, revealing a glowing passageway inside. Helena hesitated for just a second before stepping through, her mind racing with questions. Who, or what, were the Valons? Why had they come to Earth? And most importantly, Why had they singled her out for this strange task? Inside, the ship was unlike anything she'd ever imagined. The walls shimmered with soft light, and floating holograms displayed streams of data too complex for her to decipher at a glance. The air smelled faintly metallic, tingling against her skin. Commander Zirl stopped in the center of the chamber and turned to face her once more. "You may begin," the alien said simply. Elena took a deep breath, pulling a handheld scanner from her bag. As she activated the device and aimed it at Zirl's towering frame, she couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning of something far greater and perhaps far stranger than anyone could have anticipated. Elena stood in the heart of the alien ship, her handheld scanner trembling slightly in her grip. Commander Zirl loomed before her, their towering form radiating an aura of quiet authority. The chamber around them hummed with energy, its glowing walls casting soft light that danced across the metallic surfaces. Despite her training as a scientist, Elena couldn't help but feel overwhelmed. This wasn't just another experiment. It was humanity's first real interaction with extraterrestrial life. Every move she made mattered, not just for her own survival, but for the future of Earth itself. Taking a deep breath to steady herself, Elena began her examination. She started at Zirl's feet, which were clad in what looked like armor fused seamlessly with organic tissue. The material shimmered faintly, shifting colors as though responding to her presence. Her scanner beeped softly as it gathered data, displaying readings on a small screen. At first glance, everything seemed normal, or at least as normal as something so alien could be. There were no visible injuries or abnormalities, just layers upon layers of intricate design. "Your technology is primitive," Zirl observed calmly, tilting their head to watch her work, "but your curiosity is commendable." Elena glanced up, startled by the comment. "Primitive," she echoed, raising an eyebrow despite her nervousness. "Compared to yours, maybe. But we've come a long way in understanding biology and engineering." Zirl emitted a low sound that might have been laughter or something else entirely. "Perhaps, yet you lack context. Your tools see only surface truths, not deeper meaning." Elena frowned, unsure whether to take offense or simply focus on the task at hand. She decided to let the remark slide and continued her scan, moving upward along Zirl's legs and torso. Each section revealed more complexity, blending mechanical components with living tissue in ways that defied human comprehension. It was both beautiful and unsettling, a reminder of how far humanity still had to go. When she reached the chest area, Zirl suddenly raised one hand, halting her progress. "Here," they said, pointing to a translucent panel embedded in their armor. "Focus here." Elena hesitated, then leaned closer. The panel glowed faintly, revealing a swirling mass of light beneath the surface. It pulsed rhythmically, almost like a heartbeat, but instead of blood, it contained something ethereal, like stardust caught in motion. Tiny filaments of light stretched outward, forming patterns that shifted constantly. Elena stared in awe, her scientific instincts kicking into overdrive. "What is this?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "This is my core," Zirl replied. Their tone carried a weight Elena hadn't heard before, something between reverence and sorrow. "It sustains me. Without it, I cease to exist." Elena adjusted her scanner, trying to gather more information about the mysterious core. The readings were unlike anything she'd encountered before, complex streams of data that hinted at self-replicating systems intertwined with biological processes. But there was also something else. Irregularities, faint fractures, spiderwebbed through the core's structure, disrupting its otherwise harmonious flow. "Your damage," Elena said, her brow furrowing as she studied the results. "These fractures, they're spreading." Zirl nodded slowly, their glowing eyes dimming slightly. "Yes, my core is failing. That is why I sought your assistance." The revelation hit Elena like a punch to the gut. All this time, She'd assumed the inspection was some kind of test or ritual. But now she understood the gravity of the situation. If Ziral's core failed, it could mean death, not just for them, but possibly for others of their kind. The Valon Collective must have sent their commander to Earth because they believed humans could offer a solution. But why? What made them think humanity was capable of helping? "I don't know if I can fix this," Alina admitted, lowering her scanner. "This isn't like anything we've ever dealt with. Our technology isn't advanced enough." Ziral regarded her silently for a moment, their expression unreadable. Then they spoke again, their voice softer now. "You underestimate yourself, Dr. Vasquez. Your species has achieved remarkable feats despite its limitations. You adapt, you innovate, you find solutions where none seem possible." Alina felt a pang of pride mixed with doubt. Yes, humanity had accomplished incredible things. But this, repairing an alien life form whose very existence defied logic, it seemed impossible. Still, she couldn't give up. Not when so much was at stake. Over the next several hours, Alina worked tirelessly, running tests and analyzing every detail of Ziral's core. The alien remained patient, answering her questions and occasionally offering insights into their physiology. Through these exchanges, Alina learned more about the Valons, how they viewed themselves as explorers and guardians of knowledge, dedicated to preserving life wherever they found it. Yet they weren't invincible. Like any species, they faced challenges, and sometimes failure. As the day wore on, Alina grew increasingly aware of the bond forming between them. Despite their differences, Ziral treated her with respect, valuing her expertise even as she struggled to comprehend theirs. For the first time, Alina realized that aliens weren't just mysterious beings from another world. They were individuals, each with their own hopes, fears, and struggles. By the time she paused to rest, exhaustion tugging at her limbs, Alina knew one thing for certain. Whatever happened next, she wouldn't face it alone. Whether humanity succeeded or failed, this encounter marked the beginning of something extraordinary. A connection forged not out of fear, but out of trust. And somewhere deep inside, Alina allowed herself to hope. Hope that maybe, just maybe, humanity could rise to the challenge and prove itself worthy of standing alongside the stars. Alina leaned back in her seat, rubbing her temples as the weight of the situation pressed down on her. The alien ship's chamber was eerily quiet now, save for the soft hum of its glowing walls and the faint pulsations coming from Ziral's core. Hours had passed since she first began inspecting the commander's damaged core, and while she had gathered a wealth of data, the solution remained elusive. Each new discovery only deepened the mystery. The fractures within the core were unlike anything Alina had ever encountered. They weren't simple cracks or signs of wear. They seemed deliberate, almost surgical. Tiny traces of foreign material, something metallic yet organic, were embedded within the core's structure, disrupting its natural flow. It was as though someone, or something, had tampered with it intentionally. "This wasn't an accident," Alina murmured, more to herself than to Ziral. She glanced up, meeting the alien's luminous eyes. "Something caused this damage. Do you know what happened?" Ziral hesitated, their expression unreadable behind the shimmering armor. For a moment, Alina thought they might refuse to answer. But then, in a voice tinged with both anger and sadness, Ziral spoke. "We have enemies," they admitted. "A species known as the Krill. They seek to destroy us. Long ago, we engaged in conflict with them. And though we emerged victorious, they left scars that still linger. Some among us carry remnants of their sabotage within our cores." Alina's heart sank. Sabotage. This wasn't just a medical issue. It was the result of war. The implications were staggering. If the Krill had targeted the Valon Collective so effectively, what hope did humanity have if they ever crossed paths? And yet, here stood Commander Ziral, trusting her, a human, to help repair the damage. "I'm sorry," Alina said softly. "I can't imagine what that must feel like." carrying something like this inside you. Zyril tilted their head slightly, studying her with those otherworldly eyes. You show empathy where others might show fear. That is rare, Dr. Vasquez. Among my kind, such emotions are often suppressed. But perhaps that is why we falter. Elena didn't respond immediately. Instead, she turned her attention back to the data displayed on her scanner. The foreign material within the core was emitting faint signals, almost like a code. Could it be some kind of virus designed to weaken the Valons over time? Or was it merely debris left behind by the Krill's attack? Either way, removing it without causing further harm would require precision beyond anything she'd attempted before. As she worked, Elena found herself reflecting on the broader implications of this encounter. Humanity had always speculated about alien life, but no one had anticipated something like this, a request for help rather than conquest. Zyril's vulnerability challenged every preconceived notion she'd ever had about extraterrestrial beings. They weren't invincible conquerors or enigmatic gods. They were survivors, just like humans. Her thoughts were interrupted when Zyril suddenly moved closer, their towering form casting a shadow over her workstation. "Tell me," they said, their tone curious, "how do your people heal? What methods do you use when faced with wounds that cannot be seen?" Elena blinked, surprised by the question. "Well, it depends. Sometimes we rely on medicine, drugs, or surgery. Other times, we turn to technology. Nanobots, for example, can repair damaged tissue at a microscopic level." "Nanobots," Zyril repeated, their voice thoughtful. "Explain." Elena nodded, grateful for the distraction. She launched into an explanation, describing how nanotechnology worked. Tiny machines programmed to target specific cells or structures, repairing damage or eliminating threats. As she spoke, she noticed Zyril's gaze sharpening, their interest palpable. "These nanobots, could they remove the foreign material within my core?" Zyril asked, their tone cautious but hopeful. "It's possible," Elena replied slowly. "But it's risky. Your core isn't like human tissue. It's far more complex. If the nanobots malfunction or misinterpret the signals, they could make things worse." Zyril considered this in silence, their glowing eyes dimming slightly as though lost in thought. Finally, they nodded. "Then we must try. I trust you, Dr. Vasquez, more than I have trusted anyone outside my kind." The weight of that statement hit Elena like a tidal wave. Trust was a fragile thing, especially between two vastly different species. Yet here was Zyril, placing their very existence in her hands. The responsibility was overwhelming, but also strangely empowering. If she succeeded, it wouldn't just save Zyril. It could pave the way for cooperation between humans and Valons. Over the next few days, Elena threw herself into developing a plan. She collaborated remotely with Earth-based scientists, sharing encrypted data while keeping the full scope of the project classified. Together, they adapted existing nanobot designs to interface with Zyril's unique biology. Meanwhile, Zyril shared insights about their physiology, teaching Elena how to interpret the subtle rhythms of their core. Through these exchanges, Elena learned more about the Valons, not just their biology, but their culture and history. They were explorers, driven by a desire to understand the universe and protect its fragile ecosystems. Yet they were also warriors, scared by past conflicts and wary of repeating old mistakes. In many ways, they reminded Elena of humanity itself, a blend of curiosity and resilience, striving to overcome challenges despite their flaws. As the preparations neared completion, Elena couldn't shake the feeling that this moment marked a turning point, not just for her, but for all of humanity. Whether she succeeded or failed, the bond she was forming with Zyril represented something extraordinary, proof that even across vast differences, connection was possible. And as she prepared to deploy the nanobots, Elena allowed herself a small measure of hope that maybe, just maybe, this strange alliance could lead to a brighter future, one where humans and aliens work together, not as adversaries, but as partners in the great cosmic journey. The atmosphere aboard the Valon ship grew tense as Elena prepared to deploy the nanobots. The stakes were higher than ever, and both she and Commander Zirul understood the risks involved. A single miscalculation could spell disaster, not just for Zirul, but potentially for humanity's fragile relationship with the Valans. Despite her scientific training, Elena couldn't ignore the weight of responsibility pressing down on her shoulders. She had never undertaken anything so delicate or consequential in her life. Elena stood at a sleek workstation inside the ship, surrounded by glowing holograms displaying streams of data. Her team on Earth had worked tirelessly to adapt the nanobot technology, sending updates through secure channels. Each adjustment was meticulously tested before being integrated into the final design. The nanobots now hovered in suspension within a transparent containment unit, their tiny metallic forms shimmering faintly under the chamber's light. They looked almost alive, pulsing softly as though eager to fulfill their purpose. Zirul watched silently from nearby, their towering form radiating an air of quiet resolve. Their core pulsed steadily, its light flickering occasionally, a reminder of the damage lurking beneath the surface. Though Zirul tried to hide it, Elena noticed subtle signs of strain in their posture. This wasn't just about repairing a piece of alien biology. It was about saving someone who had begun to feel like more than just a patient to her. "Are you ready?" Elena asked, glancing up from her work. Her voice carried a mix of determination and apprehension. Zirul nodded slowly, their luminous eyes meeting hers. "I trust you," they replied, their tone steady despite the gravity of the moment. "Proceed." Taking a deep breath, Elena activated the deployment sequence. The containment unit hummed softly as the nanobots were released into the air, forming a swirling cloud that moved with eerie precision toward Zirul's core. Once near the translucent panel, the nanobots began to interface with the core's structure, their movements guided by algorithms designed to target the foreign material embedded within. At first, everything seemed to go according to plan. The nanobots identified the foreign particles and began breaking them down, dissolving the remnants of sabotage left behind by the krill. Tiny sparks of light flared briefly as each particle was neutralized, causing the fractures in the core to stabilize slightly. Elena monitored the process closely, her scanner displaying real-time updates on the core's condition. For a brief moment, hope surged within her. It was working. But then, something unexpected happened. One of the nanobots malfunctioned, emitting a burst of energy that disrupted the core's rhythm. The once steady pulse faltered, sending ripples of instability throughout Zirul's body. Alarms blared in the chamber, and the glowing walls dimmed ominously. Elena froze, her heart pounding as she scrambled to regain control. "What's happening?" she demanded, her fingers flying over the controls. "The core is rejecting the nanobots," Zirul said, their voice strained. "They are too aggressive." Elena cursed under her breath, quickly recalibrating the nanobots' programming to reduce their activity. It took precious seconds, but eventually, the disruption subsided, leaving the core in a precarious state. While the immediate crisis had been averted, the damage remained unresolved, and time was running out. "I'm sorry," Elena said, turning to face Zirul. Her frustration and guilt were evident in her expression. "I thought we could fix this without causing further harm, but I underestimated how sensitive your core is." Zirul regarded her calmly, their glowing eyes softening. "You did not fail, Dr. Vasquez. You pushed boundaries most would not dare to cross. That is worthy of respect." Despite their reassurance, Elena couldn't shake the feeling of inadequacy. She had come so close to solving the problem, only to stumble at the last hurdle. Frustration gnawed at her, but she refused to give up. There had to be another way. As she reviewed the data, a new idea began to take shape. What if instead of relying solely on external intervention, she tapped into the core's own regenerative capabilities? The Valon core wasn't just a power source. It was alive, capable of self-repair under certain conditions. Perhaps by merging human nanotechnology with the core's natural processes, she could create a hybrid solution. Elena explained her plan to Zirul, outlining how the nanobots could act as mediators, guiding the core's innate healing mechanisms rather than forcing repairs. It was risky, requiring direct interaction between Alina and the core itself, an act considered sacred and forbidden among the Valens. Only those bonded to the collective were permitted such intimacy with another's core. Zyril hesitated, their expression unreadable. "This violates our laws," they said finally, their voice heavy with conflict. "Yet, I see no other path forward." For several moments, silence filled the chamber as Zyril wrestled with their decision. Finally, they nodded, their resolve clear. "Do what must be done," they said. "I place my trust in you." With renewed determination, Alina initiated the second phase of the procedure. This time, she stepped closer to Zyril, placing her hands gently against the translucent panel covering the core. As the nanobots synchronized with the core's rhythms, Alina closed her eyes, focusing intently on the connection. To her astonishment, she felt something, almost like a pulse of energy flowing between them. It wasn't just mechanical, it was alive, resonating with emotions and memories. Through this bond, Alina glimpsed fragments of Zyril's past, their rise as a leader, their battles against the Krill, their hopes for peace. In return, Zyril experienced flashes of humanity, their struggles, triumphs, and dreams of reaching the stars. For a fleeting moment, the barriers between species dissolved, replaced by mutual understanding. When the procedure ended, the core's light burned brighter and steadier than before. The fractures had begun to heal, stabilizing enough to ensure Zyril's survival. For now, exhausted but elated, Alina stepped back, meeting Zyril's gaze. "You've done it," Zyril said, their voice filled with gratitude. "Not just for me, but for us all." Though the ordeal had tested them both, it had also forged an unbreakable bond, one that transcended fear and mistrust. As Alina looked into Zyril's glowing eyes, she realized this was only the beginning of a journey that would change humanity forever. The chamber aboard the Valon ship was quiet now, save for the soft hum of energy pulsing through its walls. Alina stood motionless, her hands trembling slightly as she stepped away from Commander Zyril. The procedure had worked. Against all odds, it had worked. The core's light burned steadily, its fractured pattern smoothed into a harmonious rhythm. Yet the experience left Alina deeply shaken, not just because of the technical challenges they'd overcome, but because of what she had glimpsed during that fleeting connection. Zyril, too, seemed altered by the encounter. Their luminous eyes dimmed to a softer glow, and their posture relaxed in a way Alina hadn't seen before. For the first time since their meeting, the alien commander appeared, vulnerable. It wasn't weakness, rather it was an openness, a willingness to share something profound with another being. And in that moment, Alina understood. This wasn't just about repairing a damaged core. It was about bridging two worlds, two species that had long viewed each other through lenses of fear and misunderstanding. "You've given me more than life," Zyril said finally, breaking the silence. Their voice carried a depth Alina hadn't heard before, layered with gratitude and awe. "You've shown me trust where none should exist." Alina shook her head, brushing aside the compliment. "I didn't do anything special. I just followed the science." "No," Zyril countered firmly. "Science alone cannot explain what transpired here. What you offered, a bond beyond logic, is rare even among my kind. You risk everything to help someone who is not of your world." The weight of those words settled over Alina like a warm blanket. She had always believed in the power of knowledge and innovation, but now she realized there was something equally important: connection. Without trust, without empathy, even the most advanced technology meant nothing. Humanity's greatest strength wasn't its tools, it was its ability to reach out, to care, and to adapt. As the initial relief began to fade, reality crept back in. The success of the procedure didn't mean their journey was over. Zyril's core was stable, for now, but the damage inflicted by the Krill ran deep. The fractures might return if left untreated, and the foreign material still posed questions that needed answers. More importantly, the implications of what they had done extended far beyond this single act of repair. "We need to understand why the Krill did this," Alina said, her tone resolute. "If they targeted you, and others like you, then this isn't just about healing one person. It's about protecting your entire species." Zirul nodded slowly, their expression darkening. "The Krill are cunning. They seek to destroy us not through brute force, but by sowing chaos within our ranks. By weakening our cores, they aim to dismantle the collective from within." "And what happens if they succeed?" Alina asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Collapse," Zirul replied simply. "Without our cores, we lose cohesion. Our unity fractures, and we become no better than the Krill themselves." Alina felt a chill run down her spine. The stakes were unimaginable, not just for the Valens, but for the countless civilizations that depended on their guidance and protection. If the collective fell, the galaxy would be thrown into turmoil, leaving weaker species vulnerable to exploitation and destruction. Humanity itself could easily become collateral damage in such a conflict. But amidst the looming threat, there was also hope. The bond formed between Alina and Zirul proved that cooperation between humans and Valens was possible. Together, they had already achieved something extraordinary. Perhaps, with continued collaboration, they could find a way to counteract the Krill's sabotage, not just for Zirul, but for all affected members of the collective. Over the next few days, Alina and Zirul worked tirelessly, analyzing the remnants of the foreign material extracted from the core. Using advanced imaging techniques, they identified traces of molecular coding embedded within the debris, evidence that the Krill had designed their sabotage methodically, tailoring it specifically to disrupt Valon biology. Each fragment told a story of calculated malice, yet also revealed potential weaknesses that could be exploited. "This looks almost like a virus," Alina observed, pointing to a holographic display of the data. "If we can decode how it interacts with your core, maybe we can create a countermeasure." "It will take time," Zirul acknowledged. "But every step forward brings us closer to safeguarding our future, and yours." Their partnership grew stronger with each passing day. Alina marveled at how seamlessly they communicated despite their differences. Where language failed, body language and shared intent filled the gaps. Zirul, in turn, found himself intrigued by Alina's curiosity and determination. Humans were unpredictable, yes, but that unpredictability made them adaptable, a trait the Valens sorely lacked. Back on Earth, however, reactions to the unfolding events were mixed. News of Alina's work spread quickly, sparking heated debates across nations. Some hailed her efforts as a triumph of interstellar diplomacy, while others accused her of risking humanity's safety by aligning too closely with an unknown species. Conspiracy theories flourished online, fueled by fear and misinformation. Governments wrestled with whether to support the alliance or sever ties entirely. Despite the growing tensions, Alina remained focused on the task at hand. She knew the risks involved, but she also understood the potential rewards. This wasn't just about saving one alien commander. It was about proving that humanity could rise to meet the challenges of the cosmos. One evening, as the ship's chamber dimmed to simulate nightfall, Zirul approached Alina with a question that caught her off guard. "Dr. Vasquez," they began, their voice uncharacteristically hesitant, "what drives you? Why do you push so hard when failure seems inevitable?" Alina paused, considering the question carefully. Finally, she smiled faintly. "Because sometimes the impossible becomes possible when you refuse to give up, and because I believe in a future where we don't stand alone." Zirul regarded her silently for a moment, then nodded. "Then let us build that future together." In that quiet exchange, a new chapter began, not just for Alina and Zirul, but for humanity and the Valons. Bound by trust and united by purpose, they prepared to face whatever lay ahead, knowing that their shared journey would shape the destiny of both species. The success of Commander Zirul's core repair sent shockwaves across Earth, rippling through governments, media outlets, and communities worldwide. For the first time in history, humanity had formed a tangible connection with an alien species, a bond forged not through conflict or coercion, but through trust and mutual effort. Yet, as news spread of Dr. Elena Vasquez's unprecedented collaboration with the Valon Collective, reactions were far from unified. While some celebrated the breakthrough as a monumental step toward interstellar cooperation, others viewed it with suspicion, fear, and outright hostility. In the days following the procedure, Elena found herself at the center of a global storm. Her image was plastered across every screen, her name whispered in hushed tones during emergency meetings of world leaders. The United Nations convened an emergency assembly to discuss the implications of humanity's newfound alliance with the Valons. Representatives argued passionately, their voices echoing through the chamber as they debated whether this partnership posed risks or opportunities for Earth. "This is a historic moment," declared Ambassador Lai Wei of China, his voice ringing with optimism. "We have been given a chance to learn from one of the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy. To turn away now would be to squander an opportunity that may never come again." Others weren't so convinced. Senator Margaret Hayes of the United States stood up abruptly, slamming her fist on the table. "How can we trust them?" she demanded, her tone sharp. "They came here uninvited, issued cryptic commands, and forced one of our own into a life-or-death situation. What guarantees do we have that this isn't some elaborate manipulation?" The room erupted into chaos, with delegates shouting over one another. Some nations called for immediate diplomatic engagement, while others urged caution, advocating for stricter oversight before committing to any formal agreements. Conspiracy theories swirled online, fueled by snippets of misinformation and fearmongering. Social media platforms buzzed with hashtags like #AlienAgenda and #HumanityFirst, dividing public opinion further. Meanwhile, aboard the Valon ship, Elena struggled to keep her focus amidst the growing turmoil. She and Commander Ziril continued their research, analyzing the remnants of the Krill sabotage and developing strategies to counteract future attacks. But even within the calm confines of the alien vessel, the weight of Earth's fractured response pressed heavily on her mind. "Your people are divided," Ziril observed one evening as they reviewed holographic data together. Their voice carried no judgment, only curiosity. Elena sighed, running a hand through her hair. "It's human nature," she admitted. "When faced with something new and unfamiliar, we either embrace it or fight against it. Right now, both sides are making themselves heard." Ziril tilted their head slightly, studying her with glowing eyes. "And which side do you believe will prevail?" "I don't know," Elena replied honestly. "But I hope reason wins out. If humanity turns its back on this alliance, we'll miss out on so much, not just knowledge, but the chance to prove ourselves capable of standing alongside other species." Ziril nodded slowly, their expression thoughtful. "Perhaps it is time I spoke directly to your people. My silence has allowed fear to take root. Perhaps transparency can dispel it." Elena looked up sharply. "Are you sure?" "Addressing the entire planet. That's a big step." "It is necessary," Ziril said firmly. "If humanity is to trust us, they must understand who we are and why we seek their help." The idea of Ziril addressing Earth sparked both excitement and anxiety in Elena. On one hand, it could bridge the gap between humans and Valons, fostering understanding and easing fears. On the other hand, it risked inflaming tensions further if interpreted incorrectly. Still, she knew Ziril was right. Humanity needed answers and reassurance from the source itself. A few days later, the message went live. Ziril addressed the global audience via broadcast, their towering form appearing on screens around the world. Behind them, the shimmering interior of the Valon ship glowed faintly, lending an air of authority to their presence. Despite their alien appearance, there was a quiet dignity in their posture, a sense of purpose that commanded attention. "People of Earth," Ziril began, their voice resonant yet gentle. "I am Commander Ziril of the Valon Collective. You have seen me as a stranger, perhaps even a threat. But let me assure you, my intentions are peaceful. My request for assistance was born of desperation, not dominance. Without Dr. Elena Vasquez's courage and ingenuity, I would not stand here today. The camera panned briefly to Elena, who stood nearby, her expression calm but resolute. Cyril continued, explaining the damage inflicted by the krill and the broader stakes for the Valon Collective, and by extension, humanity. They spoke of their role as explorers and guardians, dedicated to preserving life across the galaxy. Most importantly, they emphasize the shared values binding humans and Valons: resilience, curiosity, and the desire to protect what matters most. When we sought your help, we did so because we saw potential in your species, Cyril concluded. Potential to rise above division and fear. Potential to join us as equals in shaping a brighter future. In return, we offer you access to our knowledge, our technology, and our friendship. The speech ended with a simple yet powerful gesture. Cyril bowed deeply, lowering their massive frame in a sign of respect. The move stunned viewers worldwide, sparking conversations about humility and the possibility of genuine goodwill from an alien race. Reactions were mixed but undeniable. Many were moved by Cyril's sincerity, seeing it as proof that humanity wasn't alone in striving for peace. Others remained skeptical, accusing the Valons of playing emotional games to win favor. Governments hesitated, torn between embracing the alliance and safeguarding Earth's interests. Amid the chaos, Elena emerged as a key figure in bridging the divide. She traveled extensively, speaking at conferences and addressing crowds, urging humanity to seize the opportunity before them. Drawing on her experiences with Cyril, she painted a vision of a future where cooperation transcended fear, a future where humanity played a vital role in the cosmic stage. Slowly but surely, the tide began to shift. Public support for the alliance grew stronger, bolstered by Cyril's words and Elena's advocacy. Though challenges remained, the groundwork had been laid for a partnership unlike anything Earth had ever known. For Elena, the journey ahead was daunting, but hopeful. As she returned to the Valon ship after one such address, Cyril greeted her with a faint smile. "You've done well," they said simply. "So have you," Elena replied, returning the smile. "Now let's see where this path takes us." Together, they prepared to face whatever lay ahead, knowing that the choices made now would shape not just their lives, but the destiny of two species bound by trust and determination. Months had passed since Commander Cyril's address to humanity, and the world was beginning to change in ways no one could have predicted. The initial skepticism that greeted the Valon alliance had given way to cautious optimism, as tangible benefits of cooperation began to emerge. Joint research initiatives flourished, blending human ingenuity with Valon wisdom to tackle challenges that once seemed insurmountable. Together, they developed advanced medical treatments, sustainable energy solutions, and technologies capable of purifying polluted environments. Humanity's brightest minds worked side by side with Valon scientists aboard their shimmering ship, exchanging ideas and forging bonds that transcended species. Dr. Elena Vasquez stood at the forefront of this transformation, serving as both a mediator and a bridge between humans and Valons. Her role wasn't just scientific, it was diplomatic. She traveled frequently between Earth and the alien vessel, ensuring communication remained open and misunderstandings were resolved swiftly. Though her work was demanding, Elena found fulfillment in knowing she was part of something greater than herself. This wasn't just about repairing one alien commander's core. It was about building a foundation for coexistence among stars. Commander Cyril, too, had become an integral figure in the partnership. Their presence on Earth grew more frequent, attending global summits and meeting with leaders who once doubted their intentions. Cyril's calm demeanor and unwavering patience earned them respect even from skeptics. They spoke not as conquerors or overlords, but as equals seeking unity, a message that resonated deeply with many. Slowly, humanity began to see the Valons not as strangers, but as allies in a shared cosmic journey. One of the most significant breakthroughs came when Alina and Cyril unveiled a revolutionary project, the Harmonia Initiative. Named after the Latin word for harmony, the program aimed to create a universal database combining human and Vylon knowledge. It included everything from agricultural techniques to astrophysical discoveries, designed to benefit not only Earth, but also other civilizations across the galaxy. The initiative symbolized hope, a testament to what could be achieved when differences were set aside in favor of collaboration. As the Harmonia Initiative gained momentum, so did efforts to counteract the Krill threat. Using data gathered from Cyril's core, researchers developed a prototype device capable of detecting and neutralizing the molecular sabotage used by the Krill. Dubbed the Pulse Nullifier, the device represented a critical step towards safeguarding the Vylon Collective, and potentially humanity, from future attacks. Testing was still underway, but early results were promising. Despite these achievements, tensions lingered. Not everyone embraced the alliance, and some factions continued to resist. Isolationist groups argued that humanity should focus inward rather than aligning with extraterrestrial beings. Others feared that reliance on Vylon technology would make Earth vulnerable to manipulation. These concerns weren't unfounded, and Alina often reminded herself, and others, that trust must be earned over time. But for every voice of dissent, there were countless stories of inspiration. Children drew pictures of Vylon ships in school art classes, dreaming of the day they might explore the stars alongside aliens. Scientists marveled at the possibilities unlocked by interstellar collaboration, while ordinary citizens celebrated the newfound sense of purpose that came with being part of something larger than themselves. Humanity had always looked to the heavens with wonder. Now they reached out with hope. On a crisp morning, several months after the alliance began, Alina accompanied Cyril to a ceremony marking the official launch of the Harmonia Initiative. Held in a sprawling outdoor amphitheater, the event brought together dignitaries, scientists, and citizens from around the world. Above them hovered the Vylon ship, its metallic surface gleaming under the sun. Giant screens displayed live feeds of the proceedings, ensuring no one missed this historic moment. As Alina took the stage alongside Cyril, applause erupted from the crowd below. She smiled warmly, feeling the surge of pride as she addressed the audience. Today, she began, her voice steady yet filled with emotion. We take a step forward, not just for humanity, but for all life in the universe. The Harmonia Initiative is proof that we can overcome fear and division if we choose to work together. Cyril stepped forward next, their towering form casting a shadow over the stage. This is not the end of our journey, they said, their glowing eyes scanning the crowd. It is a beginning. Together, we will face the challenges ahead, not as separate entities, but as partners united by a common goal. The ceremony concluded with a symbolic gesture. Alina and Cyril placed their hands on a glowing console, activating the Harmonia database. Streams of light shot skyward, connecting Earth to the vast network of galactic knowledge. For a brief moment, humanity felt truly connected, not just to the stars above, but to the infinite potential within themselves. In the weeks and months that followed, the partnership deepened further. Joint missions explored distant planets, uncovering resources and insights that benefited both species. Cultural exchanges enriched lives, as humans learned from Vylon traditions, and vice versa. Even small gestures, like sharing meals or celebrating holidays, brought joy and understanding. For Alina, the bond she shared with Cyril became a cornerstone of her life. Though they hailed from different worlds, their connection transcended biology and language. They were friends, collaborators, and symbols of possibility. Whenever doubts arose about the alliance, they reminded each other, and those around them, of the power of trust and empathy. Years later, historians would look back on this era as the dawn of a new age, an age defined not by conquest or competition, but by cooperation and compassion. Humanity had proven itself ready to step onto the galactic stage, guided by lessons learned from an alien commander who dared to ask for help. And as Elena gazed up at the night sky, now alive with the promise of discovery, she allowed herself to dream. Dream of a future where humanity and Valons walked hand in hand among the stars, shaping a universe built on hope, courage, and the unbreakable bonds forged across the void.